I love to look at the week of summer conference in a way that it really is a visible and tangible demonstration of how much we want to minister to everyone that we come into contact with.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Gardner, and I am here today with Paul Schaefer, Tanya Charlton, and our guest, Miss Carrie McGraw.
Hi there.
Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are so glad you're here. Carrie is a longtime Memoria Press user with her family and staff member. She is a homeschool liaison, serving many, many families.
Just like everyone else, though.
Just like
a lot of
everyone
servants
else.
here.
And Carrie, you're a busy gal right now because you are in the thick of conference planning.
Many of us are. I'm not alone. Not alone, right, Tanya?
Oh, but this is something that you help with every year. And that is the topic of today's episode.
Great.
We are excited to hear more about what we can look forward to this year, what's coming up, and why we think it's going to be so beneficial for teachers and families.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into that, we always go around and say what we're reading. So, Paul, you've had some interesting stuff lately. What are you reading?
Well, the last time I talked about Kipling's collections, and I had started The Man Who Would Be King, which ended up being just a wonderful story. I very much enjoyed that one.
You did.
So I just kept on going into The Jungle Book, and then I was really surprised. I thought The Jungle Book would all be about, should I pronounce his name? Mowgli?
Mowgli.
But it's not. And then all of a sudden, it was like in the listening to about stories of seals, I think, and I was like, "What happened to the Jungle Book?" But it's nice. I mean, it's episodic, in that way, and so that was nice.
Kind of like non sequiturs, just stories.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to come back together or not. I don't know.
I don't remember. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know if they will or not.
I read them to my kids, but
I'm enjoying it.
I don't remember.
Yeah, they're great stories, and I was, for whatever reason, I was thinking more that there wouldn't be significant lessons to pull out of this, but at least in the Man Who Would Be King, I mean, there was a huge lesson there about, just living a virtuous life and like the ruin that comes to them because they go back on their abstention from drink and vice, and they say, okay, we're a king now, we want to go do that again. And then that's when everything falls apart. And I just thought it was great. It's a great story. I liked it.
I've never read that one.
It was the first one in the collection, so I just went with it.
Rudyard Kipling, The Man Who Was King.
The Man Who Would Be King. It's either the man or the man who would be king. I think it's the man who would be king.
Okay.
Because there's two people who go off into the jungle to go try to establish a kingship somewhere. And they do.
Okay. Oh, Tanya, how about you?
And then they fall like the Roman Empire?
Yeah, they probably were a king for less than a year or something, but yeah.
Oh.
Well, like Paul, you went off in the country to be king of your own, right?
I'm king of my little castle. At least I think I am, but I think the animals know otherwise. They get to do what they want.
So I started a book that has been recommended to me several times after I finished Middlemarch. It's called The Covenant of Water, and it's by Abraham Verghese. And he's Indian. He's actually, I didn't know anything about this book. I just bought it because I respected the people who said they loved it. And he is he's at the University he's at Stanford. He's the vice chair of the Department of Medicine there or something. So I was shocked when I read his bio.
And an
I was
author.
like, wait a minute. But it's really long. But it's a fast read. It's like an epic saga of generations of a family starting in 1900 in India. And I thought it was very well written and very, very good. A major theme running through it is how medicine progresses in that, because there's this condition in this family in 1900 that nobody understands. And one of the granddaughter of the matriarch figures it out so that they don't have to live like that anymore. It's some kind of brain condition that means somebody in every generation drowns. And so,
Oh, wow.
What?
yeah. So it's all that superstition around that.
Oh.
But it turns out to be an actual physical, hereditary problem in the brain that can be taken care of. But so that's all wrapped into this whole, I think he really brings India alive.
Interesting.
And when I read about the book, I think he gets like all these stories from his grandmother and has put them in there. I thought it was really very good. Now, I would highly recommend it as an adult read. It does have, some adult themes, but not a lot. And it's just it would be a really good summer read. But it is very long, but because the language is about the same size as Middlemarch, but Middlemarch took me so much longer because it's like every sentence in Middlemarch, is a very well-written sentence. And this flows in a much more modern, the language that we're used to speaking in. And so it just went quickly compared to, for the same size book. Of course, the font in Middlemarch is a lot smaller too. So maybe Middlemarch is bigger. I don't know. So now I'm cleansing my palate with a British murder mystery that is not very good. So I may quit with that. And I tell you the next thing I'm going to read, and I don't really want to, we'll see, is Horatio Hornblower because it's on our summer reading list and I haven't read it. And so I feel like I should. Have you read it?
Long ago with my son.
Yes. Well, what do you think? Am I going to hate it?
It's not
I'm
Lassie.
not a big, yeah.
But it's not fantasy either, right? It's just
No, it's
stories.
literally, it's just on a ship, and that's not my favorite place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a very, very much a boy book.
I think so. But at the same time, I remember when we read Captain Blood, and I never thought I would like that. And that has become
that was swashbuckling.
You're right.
fun.
But on a ship again, and I never thought anything having to do with a ship would ever be of any interest to me. And that turned out to be my absolute favorite book thus far in my repertoire. So hopefully.
Captain Blood is your favorite book.
Yes. It is now.
It's a great read.
Have you read the sequels?
No,
Well,
I
you
need to. Well,
should.
but if you hear my reading list right now, you'll know why I'm not at the sequels.
Okay.
Well, let's have it.
Well, I'm having a lot of fun reading right now because I'm reading with several book clubs, but two of the book clubs I run for homeschoolers. So one of the book clubs is
right.
Anna Karenina.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm having a lot of fun reading. And we've had our first discussion. We're doing this in a series of 3 discussions online. I have a very small local group that we're trying to get together as well. And so we've had our first discussion, and it's just vibrant. It's full. We're having a great time being together and reading this, as adults. I mean, I've been through it previously, but anytime you come back around to
a book
like this, we say this about good movies. The second time you watch the movie, it becomes better, if it's a good movie, but in books, it's even better. It's just so much more. And so I have sheer joy in reading this, a second time around. Why would you enjoy reading Anna Karenina? I'm not quite sure, but I am. So
because it's so well written.
It's so well written. and yet when you have friends to do this with as well, that makes the greater impact in the experience. So to all my homeschool reading friends out there.
It keeps you going, because you're accountable to other people, because that's a big book. And it's not, I would not consider that a summer read because it's just,
it is now.
It's just so cold in Russia.
Oh, Tanya, you're always cold.
I feel like I should read Eudora Welty or Faulkner or somebody in the deep South that's like dripping humidity.
Tanya and I could never work in the same office space ever. I'm always hot and she's always cold. So.
Right.
But so we've got more to come with that one. But the same group, the previous book club that I did last winter was C.S. Lewis's space trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet. And we have that group that grabbed onto that, but we've continued. So we finished Paralandra, and now we're on to That Hideous Strength. So we're going to fit that in before conference.
Are you reading Middlemarch too?
Okay, so let's talk about Middlemarch. It has not gotten the attention that it deserves on my list.
I bet. I don't know how you
am
would do all of that.
climbing the mountain of my books and trying to catch up to that.
Golly.
I just pointed out yesterday how when Michelle reads fast, we all have to read fast in the book club.
It's true.
And when Michelle reads slow, there's no date for when the book
This one's
club's
been
going
slower,
to actually. This one's
and
slow.
I'm so grateful. Shh, don't tell Michelle, please.
No, she came up yesterday.
She
and I was
told me
like,
yesterday, she said, I'm like on page 200. And I'm like, wait a minute. We've had this book a month?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It'll be months.
She was like, Paul, you have time to now pick it up and read it. You could catch up to me. I mean,
right.
it was
But you're not
funny.
going to.
I don't have
right.
time to do that right now. But I did want to ask Carrie, I mean, you're mentioning these book clubs. Is there a way for our listeners to find a way to join you?
So
to do
here's
these book
what
clubs?
I do. These are seasonal. And so Matt and the guys in marketing help me post these on our Facebook site. I posted on several MP family Facebook sites.
Our forum.
I posted on the forum. And so a sign up goes out so that I can communicate with a defined group, right? There's only one way to do that. And then schedule the discussion sessions. And I'm having to schedule several, which is a blessing. It's wonderful. So we're in the middle of one. The next one won't roll out until probably, late August. That'll be the fall.
But that is reading. Well, you're in the middle of Anna Karenina.
Then we're in the middle of Anna Karenina.
People could still join that.
They sure could. I could send that. If they want to join, email homeschool@memoriapress.com. And I will help you jump in there. Right.
People could have already read it and would like to discuss it.
Absolutely.
Or they've just got plenty of time and can start at the beginning and meet you because you're obviously reading several books
Would
at the
be
same
happy.
time.
That's not all my books, but that's okay. That's what we'll
my
deal with. So
goodness.
maybe you'll give me grace on being a little bit behind on Middlemarch. Don't talk to Michelle about it. Could we just keep that off of her list so that way she doesn't schedule
Read
for me yet?
slowly, Michelle.
Just
Well, she's
slowly.
not liking it. And so I said, when you don't like a book, then you've got to plow. I mean, you
You're
just got to
much
keep
less
reading it every
motivated.
day because the when you put it down, it's really hard to pick it back up.
Completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I never actually finished the epilogue of War and Peace. It's still next to my bed.
Oh,
I finished the book, but I didn't read the epilogue.
that would really bother me.
couldn't do
because
that.
it's termed an epilogue, I can say I've read the book.
It's optional.
Well, you can,
You
but
know,
I
do-
feel
I do
like
intend to read
I
it.
can't wait to put them back on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Then at that point it feels accomplished. And until I've done that, if they're sitting on the nightstand, then I think I still have something to do. Then I haven't accomplished that task.
Oh, I have to finish mine. If I start it, I have to finish it. And then when I finish it, I mark in the front of the book the date that I finished
Oh,
it.
do you?
The group that I did it with,
yeah.
and that goes on a particular part of my homeschool bookshelf. And I've marked the craziness out of these books anyway, right? I might as well give myself credit for when I, did the big read.
That's right.
If I go through a second time, I maybe I need to figure out another color highlighter or something just to show it.
wow.
I don't know. Haven't done that one yet. So
Yeah. Lots going on this summer, including the conference.
that's right.
Yes,
That's what we're here to talk about.
we are.
Oh my goodness.
We are. And I remember when I first started working at Memoria Press, I started my job right before the conference. And as a new employee, I remember seeing the word Sodalitas, not knowing how to pronounce it, not knowing what it meant, and not knowing what was coming with the conference. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to ask a really silly question my first week on the job. So I'll ask it to you, Carrie. In case anybody's wondering, can you tell us, what does Sodalitas mean? Why did you call our conference that name? Who is this for and the heart behind it?
That's a lot of questions, Jessica, but let me take a stab at it and then I'm going to throw
picture.
Tanya in there too. But I did not start this conference. And, but Sodalitas, let's go with question number one. Sodalitas is the Latin word for gathering. Now, the funny thing is we used to have a symbol on there that said Sodalitas gathering. And in 2021, when I think I took on my first official Sodalitas, we can talk about 2020 later, but I looked at Ryan and I said, Ryan, why are we saying gathering? And Ryan goes, I guess we shouldn't. So we took out the English gathering under Sodalitas. But that's what it is. It is a gathering. Now, like I said, I didn't start this. The first one was 2015. Remember, Tanya, we had to do our math right.
That's right.
So, to remember that this is our 10th anniversary.
Wow.
And so in honor of that, our opening plenary speaker will be the founder of Sodalitas, which is Jessica Phillips out of Highlands Latin, Nashville. And so the story of the beginning of Sodalitas is something I was not privy to, but Tanya was here and so was Paul. But I know that it was just a very heartfelt desire and push by Jessica to make sure that our homeschoolers had something unique for them, because teacher training had been going, right?
Yes.
And it served homeschoolers. It did, but there's something unique about the homeschool experience, and there are different ways that homeschoolers need to be ministered to. And so Sodalitas has that unique opportunity to minister to the breadth and the depth of that homeschool experience. Whereas the rest of the week has its own purposes, right? So the conference week needs great credit all the way around. It is so full. So, we have teacher training, we have pre-conference, we have the lecture series on the community lecture series on Wednesday night. We have the Memoria College Conference. I love to look at the week of summer conference in a way that it really is a visible and tangible demonstration of how much we want to minister to everyone that we come into contact with. Teachers, schools, homeschoolers, parents, those who are done with their parenting years, in Memoria College. So really that week alone deserves so much visibility and credit in everyone that's putting this together because of how much it represents how we want to fulfill our mission here.
And we do that. We break the week up into the beginning 2 days are for homeschool families.
That's Sodalitas. Yes.
That's Sodalitas.
Right.
And the end of the week is for teachers, teacher training.
Right. Well, we have some crossover. We do have homeschoolers that want to stay. Particularly, they'll stay maybe through Wednesday pre-conference. Those are some very special days. And then if they can, stay through Thursday and Friday, which is the teacher training. But that really is teacher training. So great time to get, great opportunity to really be steeped in the curriculum from our master teachers here at Highlands Latin School and others that we bring in. But that's kind of more Tanya. Tanya does a whole lot more of that than I do as far as the teacher training, and but I get to spend time with our homeschoolers.
Wonderful. Tanya, what are some highlights this year that people can look forward to?
At Sodalitas? Well, Jessica Phillips speaking, I think is a highlight because she really is it was a combined teacher training and homeschool. It was one conference and it was Cheryl Lowe's vision, but the year we weren't going to have it, the homeschoolers refused not to come.
Really?
Even though we were building the gym, we had big cranes everywhere. And Brian
said we had no space for them.
Yeah. And Brian said it wouldn't be safe to have people walking around the campus with things, big things on cranes. But Jessica just insisted that the homeschoolers were coming and all they needed was a little corner in a building and it could be at the bottom of the hill. So we agreed to let them come. And so that really was the separation of the homeschool and the teacher training. The classroom teachers didn't have a problem with not coming that year. But the homeschoolers were coming. And
and then the next year, we did them both at the same time. We did homeschoolers and the teacher training on the same 2 days. And that was madness.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Plus the homeschoolers missed out on that. As Carrie said, that classroom experience is really good for the homeschoolers too, because the Sodalitas workshops are more general and more...
you don't have time to dig into first form for 2 hours.
Like model lessons on, and so it does benefit the homeschoolers to be here in those classrooms for 2 days, even though it's aimed at classroom teachers. It still how to teach a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So, to have like an hour on how to actually get through a literature lesson
Mm-hmm.
is quite valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So they each serve different
needs.
Different needs. And so,
That's
but
right.
I feel like for example, at Sodalitas, everybody just sits in a chair. It's a much more communal experience, I think.
In a chair, like in a circle, right? Typically,
it's gotten
so big.
It's so big we can't get a circle anymore. But that is the goal. Would be that it would be a warmer, more embracing,
intimate
environment.
atmosphere.
And for teacher training, we want teachers to see what we feel like a classroom ought to look like
and feel like what a classroom ought to feel like.
So they literally have to sit in desks,
Mm-hmm.
just as we would with the teacher in the front of the classroom, just as our students do. Because that's in looking at our classrooms to see, that we don't have a lot of crazy stuff on the walls and just that whole classroom experience, because we want to help administrators convince their teachers that this is the best way to teach. Pedagogy is a big part of our teacher training, as well as curriculum, learning how to use the curriculum.
And we do in Sodalitas try to bring some of that in. So, like for instance, for the last 3 years, we've had a couple teaching tracks. So we break Sodalitas up into 5 different kind of groupings or categories.
Okay.
If you want to call them tracks, that's fine. But and these are meant to just minister the different needs of our homeschoolers. One of them is the homeschool family. So, for instance, in this year, there's something called managing the home. Because guess what? That came straight out of a survey last year. We read these surveys deeply and respond to them. There are actually 9 sessions in this 37 sessions Sodalitas 2 days that are directly from recommendations and requests out of last year's survey. So word to the wise out there, we do read our surveys very seriously, all of us. And so, that the homeschool family ministers to them in a way that, they still have needs. Another one in the homeschool family, another session is balancing rigor and reality. Oh my goodness gracious. That one's a hot topic all the time for homeschoolers when you've got, and then another one's the gauntlet, teaching multiple cores. There's another hot topic. And so we want to just really fill them with experienced homeschoolers who have been there, who have gone before them. But other tracks, such as this year, we're doing teaching literature. So we will go through groupings of literature. K-2 is 1, 3-7, 8th plus, and then we do a whole session on Shakespeare. And in each of these sessions, we will have a mini sample lesson from an experienced homeschooler or an experienced HLS teacher or Memoria Press member who, specializes in that as well. So we are trying to kind of bridge a little bit of both, but we cannot do and spend the time, that teacher training does on that deep dive into pedagogy.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are some of the other sessions that you're excited about?
I'm always excited about our Simply Classical sessions. I'm excited about our plenary speakers this year. We have, like we said, Jessica. We have John Christensen giving a plenary on the course of language. We have Cheryl Swope talking about enduring hope. And anytime Cheryl Swope speaks, we all gather hope from that, from her. And so I'm excited about all of them, Jessica. It's hard to say, but Simply Classical has a special place in my heart because of how it just really needs to take care of a specific type of family that's dealing with special needs. And those needs can run the gamut of all sorts of different things. But I'm just really happy that we have parents and we have Cheryl with us to minister to those families. That's always beautiful. Now, Paul, you mentioned about sitting in circles, and those sessions tend to be smaller. So if you want to sit in a circle, Simply Classical will probably still sit in a circle. But the other classrooms, no. We will pack the rooms. So anyway, it's beautiful. It's all wonderful. I hope people look at the schedule. I hope they read the synopses. A lot goes into this, and I have to credit every year that I have done this, and that which came before me was a steering committee of experienced Memoria Press parents that are curating this through prayer, through diligence, through reading the surveys, and putting together what they hope will fit the needs of homeschoolers for Sodalitas. In this year, teacher training is kind of automated, is it not? I mean,
it is. It's the same thing every year because it literally is training teachers. The Memoria College sessions are different every year, and so if if an administrator sends a teacher, that's taught 5th grade for 6 years, I honestly think it's beneficial for that teacher to sit in at least the literature and the classical studies for the year above and the year below so that they know where their students are going and where they've been. I think that's beneficial, but also those college classes provide a place for those teachers and administrators to go who have done this several years, because it really is. When you get inside the classroom, the graded classroom, it is going to be the same material every year of, how to teach every subject.
And I think as we dance around here, we're dancing around all the different things that happen in this week. It is an absolutely power-packed week. And the excitement here in the staff, maybe the exhaustion, even prior to conference, it's palpable. When that first car is coming up the driveway, I've heard someone holler, "They're coming!" It is just truly a wonderful experience, and so not everyone can come, in person, and so we now have, thanks to the year that maybe shall not be named, the beauty of the virtual opportunity. And even if you can't do that, for Sodalitas, all of the recordings are on our website. You just have to scroll down to our videos and you can go back to all the ones that we've done before. I mentioned before that we do the teaching track. We switch that track each year. And the last one last year was composition. We had Abigail Johnson all day long, 4 straight sessions. God love that woman. And she could do it again and again. Her energy level for composition is not to be matched. And she, so we have 4 sessions they can watch on that. The year before that, it was teaching Latin all day long. So we do our best to, like I said, straddle those needs of both in the curriculum, but also taking care of the differing and the unique needs of that homeschool family.
And what you're describing sounds like they're getting equipped to teach their students and to kind of get their arms around the Memoria Press way, but they're also having so many opportunities to build communities and network. Maybe they meet people in their area. Maybe they meet a friend across the country, but they're going through the same circumstance. So it sounds like, and maybe you could speak to, there are opportunities to get to know each other outside of these sessions even. There are other, they've got meals and the sessions that they go to together, and there's just a lot of time
there is
to meet people.
There is. And we made a little adjustment in the schedule last year that was met with rave reviews, and it was a longer lunchtime. We moved the plenaries around, and the comments on, I had time to sit down and meet new people, that was rewarding. And that's something that definitely happens while they're here. But one of the things, and I am not remembering this homeschool mom's name, and I am so sorry, I'm going to apologize to her. If you are listening or watching this, I want you to maybe comment for us that was me. And here's what I'm going to tell you about this wonderful homeschool mom. It was 2 years ago. She just decided to start a Zoom session on her own at lunchtime for the virtual attendees, and threw it out there on our Sodalitas Homeschool Conference Facebook page. We have a specific Facebook page for this, and maybe I'll talk about that in a minute. But and because of that wonderful idea, we picked it up and ran with it and held one for all of the virtual attendees. It's on their landing page, and all they have to do is log in for lunchtime. They can be running around their kitchen, gathering lunch, or and still be connecting with other homeschoolers, and we'll do that again. So we're doing everything we can to help establish those connections in a gathering, right? In a gathering.
Oh, that's good to know. So virtual or in person.
That's right.
We still have ways to build community.
We hope so.
That's
what we're trying to do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now they can connect prior to conference. We do have that Facebook page. Again, it's Sodalitas Homeschool Conference. Now, I will say it is a private group, and I am militant about watching, who is in this group, because on that page, we'll have someone say, "Oh, I'm traveling up from the Carolinas. Can I bum a ride with someone?" Or,
Sure.
"I need a roommate." So, there's some more private information that goes out on there. So, we'd love for people, though, you can connect on that from the website.
Okay.
It's out there. And then the forum, we have a site on the forum that's all for all summer conference that people can ask questions.
See questions answered, ask their own. I bet that's a really helpful resource.
I hope so.
Sure.
I mean, that's a huge part of this. It's not just these sessions that we've worked really hard on, but it really is building relationships and knowing, homeschooling is so isolating. And just to know that, so is teaching in a classroom. Both are very isolating because it's just you and children. And so you get starved for adult conversation, just knowing other people are doing the same thing that you're doing, that you are not really alone. And being able then to leave here with new friends that you can stay connected to I think that's a vital part of what we're doing here. It's not just imparting information, but it really is hoping to build a community. And especially with social media now, you can build a community across the country and just be talking to people who are doing what you're doing in the trenches.
And if as a Memoria Press employee who I've been to these for years and years and years, and watching across the week, you will see homeschoolers at Sodalitas get to know each other, and the ones that are going to stay for teacher training. When teacher training comes along, they're all sitting together at a table,
of course,
and so that they get to know each other more and more. And in teacher training, you see, the teachers, when there's one or two teachers coming from a school, they get to know other teachers,
That's right?
They're doing the same things they're doing.
It's huge.
And sometimes it's good, like if a school brings 8 or 10 teachers and they all sit together, right? That's their time where they don't get to spend time during the school year together.
Right. Yes.
And so it
in this
does provide
yes,
opportunities to get to know other people, to get to know the people you've traveled with, whatever it is. And that goes throughout the whole week. But Sodalitas does have more breaks built in than teacher training.
It does. I think that you've really undersold yourself here. As a Memoria Press employee, I've been at the conference for years. Well, you've planned the teacher training for how many years?
Yes, but then I was like, I'm out. I'm not taking credit for it anymore. I'm out.
Yeah, they're not out though, because you got to help Kathy.
Well, I do. I mean, I say things, but it's not.
The amount of work
that I used to put into it is not on my shoulders anymore, which is nice.
I think we should change your title at Memoria Press to Paul. I say things. But you've been at the conference since the beginning. No,
let me clarify that. I mean, Cheryl and Tanya started this, and Martin. I mean, it had gone on for a couple years before I started coming here.
Yeah, but Paul was a huge help because he's technological and we weren't. I mean, Brian is technological, but we had those early years. Poor Brian. He had me and Cheryl and Iris Hatfield, Cheryl's sister, and Martin.
And in those early years, like you never knew what Cheryl would say from the podium because she'd be like, we're going to write this and Paul's going to do it. Or, Tanya's going to do it. We're sitting back there going, what just happened?
Or when she would talk about phonics, and every single time she would point at me and say, Tanya still doesn't know what a phonogram is. And it was like, I guess this is something she wants me to know. Because it keeps coming up.
Getting my marching orders.
And as it got bigger and bigger. I mean, logistics was a huge thing for us. And we've kind of gotten to a point where we know what we're doing on this campus now, but when we used to be at Crescent Hill and we moved
we
here,
would go back and forth, right?
And
wherever we could find a space.
Right,
yes.
Right.
Okay.
And then trying to offer as many sessions as we could, depending on the amount of space we had too. And so...
And we're limited by the size of our classrooms, but it was really important to Cheryl that we show our classrooms and that we have our workshops in them so that teachers do understand that Pedagogical?
Wow.
Is that pedagogical? I couldn't say salutatorian the other days. I'm struggling. Maybe it's dementia setting in.
The teaching takes place within a certain framework, and there's a real there's an import to what it looks like, what it feels like.
That's right.
So there's so many elements that need to be shown and demonstrated if people are coming in to learn.
Yes. And I mean, my husband's getting ready to teach third grade here next year when he retires from the ministry. And it's going to be really important for him to sit in our classrooms and learn from these master teachers and see what a classroom should look like. I'm feeling it personally.
I think this is. I look forward to seeing this.
I know.
Dave
Is he
coming
coming
in and
to the
spending
conference?
time.
Yes, he's got to come to the conference.
And his
Great,
conference
great.
that his wife has planned for years, been involved with, and now Dave has to come and learn.
That's right.
It's great.
We're all excited.
Yeah, Tara's got him
That's
signed
fantastic.
And are you all teaching sessions? Paul, are you? You usually do, and they're sold out.
I know
Standing
I have a
room
session
only.
at Sodalitas because Carrie's been on my case about
That's
making
right.
sure I do my
That's
thing.
right. Feet to the fire.
And somebody got me really nervous the other day, mentioned something at the teacher training conference. I was like, I don't think I'm doing that. And I don't think I am. But typically I've got a couple and both typically, but I honestly, I didn't expect to be on this podcast. So I haven't refreshed my memory what those are going to be.
Paul,
So-
you're talking about grammar for me.
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay,
I knew it
thank
had to
you.
do with language.
Paul, your handouts are due. I just need you to know that.
Yes, and mine are too.
Yes.
Mine's coming, but I'm struggling with the formatting.
What is
But-
yours, Tanya?
So I'm doing
Jeez,
one on memorization with Stacy Heater from
Okay,
HLS
sure.
California, and I'm doing one with Tara
And
on
Michael,
literature.
right?
Oh, and Michael.
Michael.
Oh, that's fun. With
a good group.
K-2 literature. Right.
Okay.
And that's for Sodalitas.
And that's
for
literature
teacher
you've been working
training-
on quite a bit this year, haven't
Yes, we have for several years.
And
Lit
so
has
again,
been-
when we look at curate Sodalitas, we're paying attention to things like that. This is a big mission for Memoria Press right now is our literature with all that's going on. So, this is when we put this together, there's so many different factors. It's what is happening right now. For instance, we have a session with Tom Sculthorpe on pre-algebra because that's finally released and out there. And so maybe that means something will come next year, but not giving anything away. But we already have plans for next year too. So it's very exciting to be able to bring this. And, we talk about Sodalitas, while it is the word gathering, the whole week is that gathering, right? And that's really wonderful to stand back and behold when you get to watch all of that happening, like as Paul describes, the teachers getting that downtime to sit with each other in an informal setting, but also that time to learn with each other in the formal setting and then come back together and one's in this classroom and one's in this classroom. And then to know that they're being sent back with the very, very best that we can give in the ways in which Memoria Press curriculum should be and can be delivered, right?
I think it's worth coming just for the energy level.
Oh, yes.
The energy level is so high when people start coming up that hill, and we are exhausted by the time Monday morning rolls around and people start coming.
We're already tired.
But we are totally rejuvenated by the energy of the crowd that comes. And it is so much fun to, even though we're still working throughout the week, it's so much fun to see it happen. And then it feels so empty when everybody leaves.
It does. Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Oh. So what do people need to know about registration?
It's easy.
Okay.
It's just on the website, and everything that you need to know is on the page, at least for all
It's
three
on like the
conferences.
front page.
It's on
You have to scroll down.
You just scroll down and you can click on each of the individual conferences, that being Sodalitas, Memoria College, and Teacher Training. And just go through those pages, and there's the synopses for Sodalitas and bio pages on who's talking. And then we have an FAQ on Sodalitas that kind of gives you all these answers, including bring a sweater because we pump the air conditioning as much as we can. Tanya might need 2 sweaters, but
because July in Kentucky
is hot. It is hot. But the classrooms are generally cold unless the air quits working, which it tends to do in at least one cottage a year. We struggle with the air.
Right.
Oh,
But, it's an old campus, old buildings,
beautiful and
old air conditioning. We have fewer trees now because of the storm. We lost them beautiful trees.
But if you ever get cold in the classroom, you can always step out and get in that muggy, hot July, summer.
And then be happy to come back in.
So they can go to memoriapress.com, scroll down, they'll see the entire schedule, FAQs. We even give them information about lodging if they're coming in from out of town, where to eat that's close and convenient. We have all kinds of recommendations.
Because it's not unusual for entire families to come.
Right.
And dad may be off with the kids doing some activities for the first couple days. And then maybe then dad is attending a different day. We actually have a lot of dads coming this year. And on our Sodalitas Facebook page, I've already put out there, I think we need to gather these dads together at some point in time while they're here on campus, because these dads that are actually registered with their wives, so they are coming. So kudos to our homeschool families out there who are finding a way to make that work and making this a family experience, a family priority, because homeschooling is not just one, it's a family, right?
It sounds to me like you need to add something to the schedule after a post-sup and shop dad's evening. That's what that sounds like.
Dad's fellowship.
You've had a sup and shop with the men, haven't you?
We did. We kind of tried to give them a gathering area in a previous year. We took them a little too far away from the wives. I don't think it worked really well. I think we need to keep them in the general locality. So we do have a plan for that this year.
Well, we have a gazebo. They could sit in the gazebo.
Well, we thought, but you see, then you go back to the July, and I will tell you, it was Michael who said that year. He's like, "No, I don't want to be out there." And
come on, Michael.
I didn't blame him. I can't do it. So we will find something that is closer to the sup and shop. That's an important evening, that Monday evening when, maybe mom's out there spending, money on the curriculum. Right. Well, dads, we'll gather you and do something for the dads. But it makes me very happy to see the couples come, the families come, because I know I cannot homeschool without the support of my husband. And even though my homeschooling years look much different now, with now my last child is a senior than they were when they were young and multiples at home. Even then, there was no way to do this without his support, or at least do it easily. So, a partnership, absolutely. The same partnership that we want to be in with our parents. We want to encourage that in our families.
That's wonderful. Well, this has been a great discussion, lots of information. And if people have questions, they can go to memoriapress.com. They can email homeschool@Memoria Press. We have it on our Facebook group, and we have a forum on the website.
That's right.
Lots of places to go to register, to get information.
We'd be happy to have them. That's for sure. That's virtual wonderful. Or in person.
That's right.
We want to see you, or at least, you get to see us.
Perfect. Oh, thanks for being here, Carrie.
I'm happy
Appreciate
to be here.
your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks, Paul and Tanya. And thanks for joining us. Like we said, you can get more information on the summer conference at memoriapress.com. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode, or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.